Hello and welcome to episode 192 of the Filmmakers Podcast.
Almost at 200.
Almost. I did that the other day. You didn't listen, did you?
No, I don't.
This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up in our very, very
own Filmmakers Podcast.
No humble opinions. I am joined by wonderful filmmaker. It is Dom Lenoir. Hello, buddy.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Yeah, what have you been doing in this downtime?
Well, writing and developing.
Yeah. And that going well?
Reading books as well.
You're reading books now?
Film books, yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, there's some great ones.
Yeah,
got one from Ron Howard, making a good script great. That's very good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, recommended from his masterclass.
Yes, okay. Have you read John Badham's On Directing yet? It's really good.
Okay.
It goes into detail about how to work with actors. But John was on a podcast very recently that talks all about how directors should work with actors. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's on episode 100 and something. So, yeah, just put in John Badham into the your podcast browser of choice. So, listen, today we are talking to amazing producer Aaron Scotti, who was on the Make Your Film event recently. And he got in touch with myself and Dom and said, I have this brilliant pitch guru, if you like, called John Livesay. And he said, get him on to talk about how you guys should pitch movies.
Because it's not really something that we've sort of got into tremendous detail about. We tell people to get their pitch decks ready. We tell them develop their scripts, work out how to send emails to try and get those meetings, but we don't really ever go into the actual process of what makes a good pitch. And there's a lot of very interesting information and do's and don'ts especially that are very useful in terms of not only pitching your work but pitching yourself, which is the real pitch. It's
so true. They also talk about the type of investors as well that are out there, which is really interesting, and just some massive mistakes that people have made and the best ways that you can really practice your elevator pitch and get it in the right way. So you're really going to enjoy this week's Filmmakers Podcast. I promise you it's going to be a really, really good one for those who are about to go pitch their projects or have already and need the experience to learn. Be better.
Exactly.
Be better, Dom. Be better.
I am better than you. I'm a patron.
You are a patron?
Yeah. Speaking
of which, do come and join us. We have some amazing stuff that isn't on our normal regular podcast. We've got the full Mark Strong episode, and we've got all
Charles's nudes.
You can't. No, it's an audio thing, Dom. There's no nudes. It's a shame because that might get more patrons.
I think it would.
Wouldn't if they were yours. So if you want to go on the Patreon, then do that because there's some great stuff for you. It's only £2. What's £2? No, it's
almost a coffee. Maybe an espresso somewhere not very good.
So what more endorsement do you want than that? Speaking of merch as well that Dom did there, you can come get our merch at the podcast. If you are at AFM this week or at the AFM market, we are there this evening with Dan Mazer, the writer of Borat and the writer-director of the new Home Alone movie. So, if you're at AFM, come join us. Link to that is just go to afm.com. This is the podcast with Aaron Scotti and with John Livesay. You will learn so much. Enjoy.
How are you guys? Good to see you.
Good to see you again. Thank you so much for doing the Make Your Film event. It was so popular when you did that. It was really good. We really appreciate that.
Oh, good, man. Good, yeah.
And now we appreciate the fact that you're doing the podcast for us as well. And you brought on John Livesay, which is incredible because he is, well, John can describe himself, but from what you said and what we've learned about John is that he's a fantastic helper in getting people to pitch their projects and how he can develop people's pitching skills. And we're going to be talking about that quite in detail. How are you, John? You okay?
Things are great here. Thanks for having me on your wonderful show.
Very good to have you. And this is Dom Lenoir as well.
Hello.
Hello, Dom.
Nice to see you all.
Very nice to see you. Whereabouts are you, John? Whereabouts are you in the world?
I'm in Austin, Texas, where it's keep it weird is the whole theme of the city. And
that's what we like. Yeah. I might be coming down there very soon. We're supposed to be prepping a movie. We might be coming down to Austin that way. So I'm looking forward to it. Apparently there's some beautiful vistas and some lovely places to shoot. Would you
Oh my
recommend?
Yes, there's a 300-acre park here called Zilker and a natural springs, and it's very scenic. It's very much nature, so you'll have no shortage of things to shoot.
Stunning.
Yeah, stunning.
And lots of heat, I imagine.
At this time of year, yes.
Yeah.
Like a dog on heat, or like heat from the sky.
Hopefully the sky heat.
Yeah, okay, good. Let's just get that clarified. That's good. So look, this is the Filmmakers Podcast. We talk about how to make films, how to get them made. And we wanted to talk to you, John, when Aaron suggested it, obviously about pitching, because it's something we haven't talked that much about on the show. We talk about, how to raise money and, how to actually deliver your film, but we don't often talk about the role of pitching. So what is, I suppose, where do we start? Where do you go? How do you even begin on this journey of best way to pitch a movie?
Well, I think the first step is to have a really great elevator pitch, even though we may not physically be in elevators, but it is a metaphor for, in 90 seconds, can you sum up what your movie's about in such a way that it intrigues people enough to say, ooh, I'm interested, tell me more, whether they want to be an investor or help in whatever way it is. And certainly you need that when you're pitching agents to get the right talent, as Aaron can speak to. You need to be able to really concisely describe who you are and what your movie's about if you want to get top talent in. So that's the first starting point, I think, that most people think, they feel like you have to cover all 3 acts in the movie. And nobody has time for that. So you need to learn, the first step is how to have a really great elevator pitch. And we can talk about some tips on that, but I just wanted to have Aaron weigh in on the importance of an elevator pitch when you're trying to get funding and casting.
Yeah. Well, if you tell the whole movie, there's no reason to buy it, right? And we live in a world where people tell themselves the story that they don't have enough time. So you got to grab them. You have to grab them quick, And the other thing is, if you can engage from a place of your own passion, like tell the story that you love. I think there's and John, I'm sure we'll get into this, because sales is sales, whether you're pitching a movie or a product. And if you're product dumping, people feel it. But if you're telling a story from your heart, people feel that too. And I think it's more rare. It's coming back around thanks to people like John, showing this beautiful way of storytelling. But right now, I think that your people have an opportunity to change the way that things are done. And I know for me, if sometimes you just get lost. People are telling, pitch, push. And you're just like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. But when they just tell you something and leave it there with no expectation, you're like, I want to know more. And that's what John does with the elevator pitch. And I watch him transform. We're in a men's CEO group, and these guys run massive companies, and they still go to John. And I watch within 10, 20 minutes, John, you shift their whole pitch into a tight little package to where people want to know more. And I watch, even after those calls, the people that are watching are wanting to know more about that business in real time, because it's not a product.
I mean, do you think in a lot of cases, as filmmakers or people, when you're sort of desperate to get your point across, that you over pitch, and you try to tell them everything, and you already have them hooked, and then you keep talking and you unsell yourself.
You can talk yourself right out of it. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, in the storytelling skills, there's open loops, and great, screenwriters use that all the time, or we see that on television shows where you create an open loop to get people to watch, the next episode, or sometimes in a film, it's I hope there's a sequel. It looks like there's a sequel based on the way this ended. So that's an open loop. And you want to have those open loop cliffhangers in your elevator pitch, so people go, wow, well, what would that look like? And anything that intrigues them to want to know more, so that it's a conversation and not a 10-minute monologue. And I worked at an ad agency creating commercials for movies when they were coming out back in the day on DVD. And so I think my first big tip for all filmmakers would be reverse engineer your concept, because someone's going to have to take what your whole movie is and create a trailer for it, whether it's Netflix or HBO or anybody or studios. So if you think in terms of, what would I want the audience to think, feel, and do if they saw the trailer for my movie, that would then make it irresistible to make them want to go watch it. And if you have that in your head already, before the movie's even shot one frame, it will really help you craft what kind of story you're telling. And the irony was, when I would look at commercials that have been done theatrically that maybe didn't do as well as they wanted at the box office, we could sometimes say, what if we reposition this and pull different scenes and make it seem more of a comedy instead of such a drama? We might get people intrigued. So what parts of a story you pick and choose from really influences whether people resonate with it or not.
I totally agree. What you said earlier there, Aaron, about when you're passionate about something, when you start pitching a project and you're totally in it, you love it, you're absolutely massively passionate, then suddenly everyone goes, oh, wow, that sounds really interesting. You start telling it in the right way rather than going, well, I've got this project, it's about, an action story, and everyone goes, yeah, whatever, bored.
And then it becomes a case of memorizing, like, everything that happens in the story and trying to not forget something. And
then you could hear the script.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I suppose it to someone who's an outsider, you're just cramming them full of information and they get overloaded and they don't really get to the, maybe it's better to have a core of what the story is about that makes them feel something.
Totally. And then I love what you said there, John, about thinking about the trailer, what actually is in your pitch, reverse engineer it. I love that. Tell us more about that and how we could go about doing so.
Well, I think the first thing you want to start with is what's going to grab people. You obviously think about that when you open your movie, and you would think about that in terms of if you put your empathy hat on and pretend you're an editor creating a trailer.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, so now I have to figure out what's this movie about? And I have the 3 checkoff questions that I use with everyone I work with, which is, what do I want the audience to feel? Mm-hmm. What do I want them to think? And what do I want them to do after seeing my movie and or trailer or hearing my pitch? And so depending on where you are in that process, it's very different. If they hear the pitch, I want them to be intrigued enough to want to know more, but I want them to feel something. And I want them to think, wow, this is really fresh, or this would really resonate. Because I think there's 2 unspoken questions when you're pitching, again, to get funding or to get talent. I think it's so important because, I once heard some producers say, the difference between a TV movie and a movie in the theaters is casting. So I think as a filmmaker, part of your job is to, envision who you want in that role and why they would want it and how it fits into their career. Is it giving them something they've never had the chance to do before, for example? That's why a lot of actors take on new roles. And certainly Aaron can speak to how he got some top talent in Peanut Butter Falcon. But I think going back to Aaron's point again is this passion. So your story of origin, not necessarily the character you've written about, is so important. In other words, what makes you so passionate about this particular movie? If you're writing a film about, problems with sexual abuse or whatever it is, did you have that as an issue? Or if you're writing a movie to, inspire people, or, there's got to be the best movies usually have some really core why behind what the filmmaker's vision and the screenwriter's vision.
Well, Peanut Butter Falcon's a perfect example of that. Aaron, do you want to tell us, just bring that into what John just said there about Peanut Butter Falcon? Yeah,
the thing that kept popping in my mind is how are we serving the world? That for me, that's what I was always looking towards. Listen, I can't speak for everyone in the world, but I feel like it's a human trait to want to serve the world in a certain way. I think everybody has that in them. So that was something with Peanut Butter Falcon. I drove across the country 15 years ago to tell stories that matter and make a difference through a Hollywood vehicle. And it took me 15 years to do that. But when we did, you just feel the alignment, because a lot of people, and this is why I was saying about the pitch and having passion and telling the story with no expectations, because we're all running around trying to make a living. And there's a difference between artistry. Like, we all come out here for the artistry. We want to tell stories. That's in our heart. But then you get mixed up in the industry, which a lot of people allow to drag them down, because you get caught up in the industry and, I need to sell this, I need to sell it. And you forget why you told the story in the first place. So I think telling the story for the joy of telling the story is your pitch. You know what I mean? And that creates an attractive vibration that people want to chase you out of the room. This goes for actors in auditions as well. If you go into the audition and you're dying for the part, you're probably not going to get it if you need that part to pay rent, because there's an energy that people feel. But if you go in there because you're like, oh, I wonder how I'm going to build this cake right in front of them. And then you do it and it's like, whoa, I didn't even think I was going to use the frosting that way.
Yeah.
But if you go to the store and bring, the store-bought cake and you hand it to them, they're going to put it in the pile with the rest of the store-bought prepared cake.
And I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of the industry tries to just naturally sort of say, well, your film needs to fit into this box. That's what works. And it's not necessarily the box that works. Like, the box works to a degree with like genre, but for every example of that box, there's 100 examples of films that are completely different to what a sales agent.
Peanut Butter Falcon.
Exactly.
They didn't know how to distribute this movie because they had no comps.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to take a risk. So our financiers doubled down. They said, we believe in this movie. We'll distribute it ourselves. And we put up P&A and worked with Roadside to distribute. And it's because the studios were like, we can offer you this because it's too risky. We don't know how to comp. That's a good thing. So go and write the movie and pitch the movie you want to see on that screen. And if the person in the room can't see your vision, then don't force it. Go on to the next person, because they're just going to water down your movie anyway if you make the sale. Walk around with that attitude, man, your movie lands in the right place. But John will give you the practical tips and tools to find a balance between what I'm talking about and the practical sale.
Yeah, just like in the screenplay, there are certain formats to follow. And if you don't have your script in that format, no one's going to look at it. Same thing is true when you listen to someone tell an elevator pitch or tell a full-on presentation about your movie to get the right cast or get it funded. What's interesting is if we look at some movies that have been remade and everyone's familiar with the story, then you have a whole new pitch that you need to come up with. Like, do we really need a third version of A Star is Born? Well, if we have Lady Gaga and Bradley, we do. But then how does, he convince someone to let him direct for the first time? So you're constantly having to tell a story of why, and Bradley had this amazing passion for this project, that's what people bought into, including Lady Gaga. Right. So he had to convince her to be in his movie and trust him. And then what I love about that particular story is he then had to trust her to teach him how to sing. And so they were each sharing each other's expertise and out of both of their comfort zones. And that's where the chemistry came from. But then again, they had to convince studios to give them the budget to make all that happen. So even if you look at something like that, it's a new way of thinking about, oh, I never thought that they had to pitch to get that movie made. And so that's another example of the importance of having a story of origin that drives the whole project forward.
But if you think about their circumstances too, I mean, I imagine that Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga aren't pitching this to pay their rent, right?
No.
So they're coming from a place of passion, not desperation. Yeah. And, as he's pitching to Gaga, he's tapping into her creativity and her artistry and vice versa. And it's an energy flow, but there's no desperation involved.
And I think that's an incredibly important point about the sort of the desperation and the fear, because I think when you walk into a room and say you've got a couple of investors lined up on a panel, they're all wearing suits. It can be quite an intimidating environment, and something that when I was sort of watching acting classes, I remember hearing is that your passion has got to override your fear. So if your passion level is like a 5 and your fears are 7, then your fears are going to take over. But if you're actually pushing something that you care about so much, it's going to go past any of your sort of anxieties. And that's where it comes down to telling, what a story that really means something to you.
Well, I teach people how to be more confident and not get intimidated. And one of the techniques I use is stacking your moments of certainty. So I have my students write down 2 or 3 times when they knew they nailed it. Aaron asked his wife to marry him. She said yes. Whatever it is, you got your first investor. You remember other successful projects before you go into a situation that could be intimidating. I know when Larry King interviewed me, that was a little intimidating.
Of course.
So I thought to myself, I remember this great Arthur Ashe, the famous tennis pro's quote, and he said, the key to success is confidence. Key to confidence is preparation.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, I'm going to prepare as much as I can. And this is what filmmakers can do when they're talking to potential investors. Know as much about those people as you can. Do your homework. What other movies have they made? Be able to have something ready to go. And so I looked up part of Larry King's biography on how he got his big break interviewing Frank Sinatra. So, and I also read that Larry King hates small talk.
So you didn't do any.
So I have breakfast with him, and then I'm in the car with his driver, and I'm sitting up in the front with the driver, and he and his co-host are in the back, and they're listening to the ball game because they're both, avid Dodger fans. And the co-host very innocently trying to pull me into the conversation and say, "Hey, John, are you into sports?" And I'm like, I have that moment where you fake it, or I go, "Not really. I come from an advertising background. We watch the Super Bowl for the commercials, not the game." And so then you cut to Larry King's interviewing me on air, and he goes, "John, how important is it to be authentic when you tell a story?" I go, "It's so important, Larry. It's everything. In fact, if you're not into sports and someone asks you are you into sports, don't fake it." And so I got rapport with him. And then he asked me, he goes like, "Well, what makes a good story?" And I said, "Well, would you mind sharing that story of how you got your big break meeting Frank Sinatra?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, that was a great night." And suddenly he's telling that story, and then I'm breaking down the elements for everyone watching so that they can say, "Oh, there's an exposition, there's a problem, there's a solution. And why is that such a good story with the resolution?" And then, so that's how I overcame the intimidation. So when I have people write down those moments of certainty and do your research on who you might be intimidated by and how can I build rapport with them fast by complimenting them and sincerely and having something specific that you've liked about it. So it's not enough just to say, "I like your work." You need to get I love that movie, and my favorite scene in that movie was this.
And to just be human with people as well. I think that's another thing, rather than just sort of treating them as like, your cash cow or your golden ticket. Like actually, like maybe look beyond just what your goal is to get out of them as well. Totally, and just actually try and think, would this person be someone I want to hang out with, or
Well, I can tell you what I think the biggest myth is when you're pitching anything. And perhaps you've all heard this. "Oh, you got to get people to know, like, and trust you." Right? That's a phrase we've heard forever. Sure. The problem with that, guys, is if you think, "Oh, well, the first part is you got to get to know me. So therefore, let me vomit out a bunch of information about me and my project and my movie, and it's push, push, push." And so I say you got to flip it, as Dom was saying, into people. We got to build trust first, not likability and knowledge. Yeah. So you start with trust, and then you go to which is a gut thing, and then you move from the gut to the heart, which is a likability thing. And the more empathy you show for people, the more they like you, and then it gets to the head. But even then, it's still not information. It's literally, and certainly Aaron can speak to this. Will this work for me? If you're telling a story about the movie, and they got to work with you for a while, and they got to like you and trust you, and then they got to think, well, will this work for me in my career? Imagine what Bradley had to say to Lady Gaga. "You've never started a movie before. You've got to trust me as a director for that I am going to make you not look like a fool. You don't need the money, but you don't want to ruin your
legacy in your career." Yeah.
So the stakes are high either way, and that's what makes a good story all the time.
I love that. I think that's great, John. I think it's so important that when you're going into a meeting, when you're pitching a project, it's not all about you.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've prepped and you've got everything ready, but what a great way to start the meeting is to talk about them, get them talking, because there's nothing better than you can ease into it. You don't feel pressure, but also they've gone, this guy or girl has actually thought about, me and the project, and they care enough to actually ask a deep enough question about a project I did 10 years ago that I love. Wow, what a way in, and that's suddenly now they go, do you know what? I might give this person some money. You're already winning, you know?
You also eliminate the potential for that small talk, because I think small talk is just a way out of a conversation. Small talk is, I'm the same way. I agree. Larry King, I guess that's a kindred spirit for me, because I think I said this to you guys on the last podcast, when you were asking me about all this technical, how do you raise money and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I want to talk about the heart of the story and how we need to shift Hollywood, because I don't want to do small talk. You know what I mean? And it ended up being a more pleasant conversation. It's more depth. And I think we need, if it's lacking in the world, we need to bring that depth back to the conversations. And if you can go do that in a pitch, you're going to blow somebody away, because they're so bored. They're going to be like, wait, they not just talk about the weather in Arizona? This is crazy. Let me get into this more.
Yeah, and I think on the same level of that, you don't need to always rush into. I mean, this is my sort of, I guess my approach, but not actually rushing into the pitch itself. Like, I understand sometimes you have like a 5-minute window, and you've got that 5 minutes.
Literally
you can't talk about your. But
it's like we all know why we're here, right? I don't have to shove it down your throat.
Here's two big mistakes that people make. That's a version of small talk. They get up and they go, "Thanks for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here." It's so boring. It's so cliche. And guess what? Nobody cares that you're excited. It's not about you.
But it's also like when somebody tells a joke and instead of laughing, you say, "That's funny." If it was funny, you would laugh. If you're excited, we could feel your excitement. You don't have to say those words. Now we know it's nonsense.
It's a painful thing to hear.
You're better off to say, "I'm really not excited. I don't want to be here, but I've got to pitch this damn movie."
Well, that's a closer step to honesty.
Totally. It's true.
And here's the other mistake they make. At the end, they go, "Well, that's all I got. Any questions?"
Oh, now I have to work?
Yeah, exactly. Shit, I've got to ask questions now. I was supposed to be concentrated on your shit.
That's when you get the thanks for coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is great.
A good closing is, I've described to you our passion, our vision. If this sounds like the kind of journey you'd like to go on with us and get this movie made and into the world, we'd love to have further conversations. You're inviting them to continue the conversation. The whole goal of a pitch is to get the second date.
Yes. It's foreplay, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I say. I had a question. I forgot it then because I thought
I'm not going to a pitch with you.
Aaron's the only one good looking enough to get women to ask him to marry him on the coffee date. Most of us have to work it up. Yeah,
it's true.
Well, no, she was bartending. It was more of a beer date. But Dom, it's like you said. I mean, you have to feel if you want to spend time with this person. I mean, you build a family on set. You hear a pitch. You meet the person that's going to be the storyteller. Do you really want what's their approach like? What's their ego like? What am I going to deal with on set? Yeah. Especially for the guy with the money.
Yeah.
Who's going to have to give over some control to the creative side. You want them to feel like their money's in good hands.
Yeah, and also that you're not going to necessarily be someone that's really difficult to sort of give thoughts to or ideas. Because I think a lot of people forget that. They think, oh, is it about how good my story is? And like that's obviously a big part of it. But it's also whether you're someone that's workable.
Right. When you're asking for money and money is energy, if they're going to give their energy, you're adding more energy to the story and it becomes a collaborative effort. And you have to be able to find a balance. Yeah.
Well, let's give everybody a description of the types of investors that are out there, the types of buyers. And I've broken them into 3 Bs. There's the believer, there's the builder, and there's the bean counter. So the believer is someone, when you're describing your vision, your experience, they're like, "Oh man, I believe this would be a hit movie. I believe this could make a difference in the world." And to Aaron's point, tell a story of another movie you've worked on or what your vision is for the set and how they could believe that this would be a cohesive thing that would come on time and under budget and all that good stuff. Then there's the builder. And this kind of investor is like, "Yeah, but would you be willing to change the location? Or can I be involved in some of this? Can I help in casting if I give you, they want to see if they have any input. Can I just not have my name as producer for giving you money, but can I actually produce?" And then there's the bean counter. And most people go, "Oh, I don't like the bean counter." The good thing about a bean counter personality is if you speak their language, you can get rapport with them and say, "Look, we're going to have to get these 3 things to happen in order for this to break even." The fact that you've even thought about breaking even will make a bean counter happy.
It's so true. Yeah, I love that, John. That's so cool. I love the 3 Bs. That's really nice.
And those kind of people as well. Like, I mean, is this correct that I think a lot of people go in with less money than they need, and the finance person can tell that, and it actually puts them off because they think, well, they're just going to come and ask back for more money. They haven't thought it through, like what the actual returns are going to be.
It also feels irresponsible up front. It's like, if this person can't see through this, what are they going to do with the rest of it? I'm out.
What are you, the next Francis Ford Coppola that's going to keep just
right? You sell your house,
just filming and never end the movie. You got to land the plane, right? We're going to have it.
We're going to do the sequel to Heaven's Gate.
Yeah. Oh God, it's a bit like casting in a way. It's you want them to be amazing when they come in the room. You want to be blown away and go, "Yeah, that's the person I want." But essentially the director's ticking boxes to go, they didn't, that doesn't fit with what I need, and it's the same with pitching, right? It's the same with an investor watching a pitch. It's like, okay, well, I like them, but I didn't like the story, or I didn't like this, or I think it comes to that, right? I mean, it's a very similar technique of thinking about it.
Well, remember, if that investor's in the room, that means there is money that they want to spend. So if you can identify which one of John's 3 B's that person is and play to that, if it's, the believer obviously is probably an easier pitch. Let's go with the builder though, because that can be muddy water. But if you go in and you identify that person as the builder because they give you that piece of information, like, I have an idea for casting, instead of being resistant because you want to make the movie, you go in and go, oh, thank God, we were really looking for a qualified investor who would have a little bit of input. I do like to run, I do like to be the captain of my ship, but I really love the support and I'm open to creative ideas. And sometimes you might see something that I don't, so I welcome that.
And that's communicating openness and strength.
Exactly.
Here's another alliteration for everybody. Collaborative conversations get cash.
Oh, sexy.
That's what Aaron was giving you an example of, a collaborative, open environment. And most people are like, oh, I've got this diva. He's not going to change one thing. He thinks his script is perfect. No script is perfect. It's always a work in progress, all that stuff. So if you can separate yourselves from all the other people pitching, and you're like, oh no, I'm all about collaborative conversations. It's like a breath of fresh air for someone who's got smog all day long.
I just like to jump back a tiny bit because this is so good. This is really interesting about the actual pitching itself. Is the best way to over practice? I know we talked earlier about throwing it away and sort of feeling the passion, but surely you can only get that passion as well if you know about your project inside and out, and you know your numbers. Is it a mixture of the two, or is it like the Michael Caine method where you learn all your lines inside out, backwards to front? You can do it standing on the moon, in the shower, wherever you are when you're having sex, whatever it is, but then when you come to set you can throw it away and do it in your own way. Do you feel it's a similar way, and the best way to do that, John, is to have that method?
Well, I think one of the biggest fears most people have is, I'm going to sound robotic, or I'm going to no longer be myself. And so I think if you have a phrase, and my phrase that I work with people on, just a basic elevator pitch is, the biggest mistake people make on an elevator pitch is, I am a filmmaker, my movie's about this, and you just instead say, how there's certain movies that just stand the test of time, and with the right casting, people want to go see again? Well, that's what I feel about A Star Is Born. Or Rocky, or whatever it is, right? So you start the conversation out literally with how. And when you have, then people, it's like you're having a drink with somebody at a pub, as you would say in the UK, right? It's very conversational. So when you keep things conversational, as opposed to, now I'm presenting, now I'm pitching, and I become a robot or stiff, the more relaxed you are, the better it is. Now, as far as the amount to practice, you have to practice your opening, practice your closing, and then figure out what are the 3 key things I want them to remember. Peanut Butter Falcon is about changing the world and letting go of prejudices and taking people on an adventure, all those things. So there'd be like 3 key things that we're going to make people see people who have a handicap in another way, and then start looking at, even if you don't, quote, have a handicap, maybe you are handicapped in your own limiting beliefs about something that happened in your past, or whatever it would be that you would do to give the elevator pitch for Peanut Butter Falcon. You just go, and then from there, you're in your mind going, I've got my opening, got my closing, and as long as I hit these 3 points, I know where I am in the process. So you don't ever have that deer in the headlights, which is where people go, oh my God, and you literally become scared speechless. And what's happening is your brain gets hijacked, because we are trained as animals to be in a tribe. And if you get separated from the tribe, that's when you get picked off by a predator. So when you're in front of people and your brain is going, I'm up here by myself, whether it's on stage or in a room, and the whole rest of the tribe is out there, I feel vulnerable. Fight or flight time.
And once you go into fight or flight, you're in big trouble, because it's really hard to manage when you're not grounded. And John just gave me a good thought. it based on what your question, it really depends on the individual, and everybody listening knows where their sweet spot is or can identify if they look closely. Like some people want to read it over and over and practice, but you have to know your gauge of where you go and overdo it and then you sound robotic, or you have enough to, if you can let it go, then study all you want, as long as you know and you could go into John's, John, you were saying in the course with the stacking certainty, go back in your life and remember a time where you hit that sweet spot. How much preparation did you do before that? How did it go after? So you can use your life experience to go back and understand your instrument and the peak of potential, right? So you go and you say, oh, man, that pitch, I nailed it. Go back in your mind and dissect that pitch a little. You know what? I thought I was late, but then I wasn't. And I was like, I just have to wing it. I know the story in my heart. I'm just going to listen first. Because if you go in with the intention of listening first, you don't have to try to remember what you were going to say. Because if you organically move through the conversation, you don't have to be like, oh, I forgot to tell them this thing. It doesn't matter. They like what you're talking about. The conversation is fluid. You don't have to go back to that thing you forgot to memorize.
I think that's when people get bored of pitches is when you're trying to memorize it. When you as the pitcher are trying to memorize all the details, and then it just becomes a case of like trying to remember everything rather than enjoying actually telling them about your story.
And people buy emotionally and then back it up with logic, whether it's a sports car, investing in a startup, or funding a movie, or whether an actor's deciding whether this script is right for them. Mm-hmm. It's not like, well, I've done 2 action movies, so I should now change it up and do a drama, right? That's not how people make decisions. When you go buy a sports car, they don't go, oh, Aaron, you're going to love the gas mileage on this Ferrari. They're going to say, you're going to feel sexy and it's going to be fun to drive in. And imagine, right? So the same thing should be true when you're, pitching. Don't push out a bunch of information. And Aaron and I have actually worked together on this concept in his own life and storytelling. You think, well, Aaron, maybe you think I'm a pretty good storyteller. I don't need any help on it. But are you a black belt in it? And as good as Aaron is at it, he still believed in working with me enough to get some fine tuning. And I'll let him tell you what that story was like.
And I'll continue. I mean, the day you stop learning it's called death, right? I mean, we come here to experience life and experience the world and get and grow. John and I, like I said, we're in a men's CEO entrepreneur group, and I was having this drive to tell my personal story. Like we all come to Hollywood. We want to tell other people's stories. We want to. Well, some, writers write their own. I never wrote a movie myself. I was an actor, then a producer. So I was part of the collaborative effort. But I had this drive, to tell my own personal story before my son was born. And there was an opportunity to get up in front of the group of 100 men sitting in the movie theater and just tell a 10-minute story about your aha moment in life. And I don't know why on this day, John and I were put together by the universe. We had to switch seats and sit next to someone you never met before. And as I was walking by, John just said, hey, there's an open seat. And I was like, perfect. Thank you. And then we sat down, got to talking, and John convinced me to go up and be one of those people that told their aha moment. And then he helped me develop. We went out for lunch and we developed the story in a way, because I could sit here and talk for like 72 hours straight telling my story. And John's like, how do we take that 72 hours and bring it into 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And it's like, it was overnight, because once I raised my hand and volunteered, there was no turning back. So I kind of used my ego and my stubbornness to my advantage to throw me in the fire. And then it's like, no, I'm not backing out now. So I was like, John, please come help me. And all these tools that John teaches you in the course. And I tell you, I went up there and it all just came together. And by the end, I had grown men crying, coming up and hugging me. Thank you for showing us your heart and telling us this story and inspiring us. And that moment changed my whole life. And now I'm building a business based on my life experience and how I can help others. And I mean, just by learning how to tell a story in a fashion that grabs your attention, is succinct, but gets the whole story across without all the words,
Yeah, and that's what Aaron described is when we tug at people's heartstrings, they open their purse strings.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's true.
Here's a quick checklist for everyone listening. If you're doing any kind of pitch, elevator pitch in front of people, you're given 10 minutes, whatever it is, it needs to be 3 things: clear, concise, and compelling. And so write those 3 words down as is this clear? Because the confused mind always says no. If I don't understand what your movie's about, I'm not going to fund it. I'm not going to be in it. I'm not going to work on it, right? It needs to be concise. If you can't explain it where somebody else, because the goal of having a great story is that other people can remember it and tell your story to other people. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, compelling is it's touched your heartstrings in some way. That it's not just an intellectual thing.
I think as well, when you're doing stories, is it good to be thinking more along the lines of like, what is the arc of the story, like rather than sort of going to go through all the details? Like, what is the sort of the journey the character goes through? Is it redemption? Is it finding romance? What Aaron was saying about his film. It's about accepting and finding those kind of elements when you're telling the story is important, as well as just going from, okay, this is what happens, A, B, C, D, E, until you get to the end of it.
Here's another big takeaway. The better you describe a problem, whether it's a problem you're solving or a problem your character's solving, the more invested people are in the solution. And so as the hero's journey that we all are probably familiar with, it just keeps, the problems keep escalating as you watch any Star Wars movie, right? You're like, oh, there's no way he or she's going to survive this. And then if they do, and then there's something worse that happens to them. And so as you take people on that journey of your own situation, then you went, like, let's imagine you're pitching an investor and you tell a little story of another movie you worked on. And then instead of saying, I'm someone who problem solves and figures out, you tell a story and you show this went wrong. And then we figured out how to, we had to cut a budget here to make this happen. If you're talking to a bean counter, if you tell stories of how you've solved problems, as opposed to just saying, I'm a problem solver, which one do you think is going to be memorable?
So true. Stories are everything. And it was really interesting what you said there earlier about how other people pass on your story. Now, if you've got a perfect example is if someone wants to go, you're talking all the time with people about Netflix, what's on at the moment, what are you watching at the moment on Sky, wherever it is. And they will say a program. And if you haven't heard of it, you'll go, what's it about? And they will literally just answer it in 3 words sometimes? Yeah. Oh, it's a sports drama. It's the end of the world.
And they'll say, oh, you have to see it. They are your marketing tool.
So imagine if we could do that in that pitch. It's almost like we're putting it into the smallest amount of words. Yeah. Because that's what the world will do with your movie later. Peanut Butter Falcon. You know what I mean? You put it into the smallest amount of words that it could possibly be. Most people just go, oh, it's got Shia LaBeouf in it. You've got to see it.
The investors, believe it or not, have imaginations as well. And if you give them a small piece, it allows them to engage their own imagination to see how the story might go, instead of shoving it down their throat and go, it's not quite my cup of tea. If you leave openings for possibilities, then it excites them.
And also, I guess it leaves them room to actually pitch it to other people outside of the meeting between you and you two.
That's really it. There's a pride factor. Let me tell you about this movie I've invested in. Let me tell you about this movie I've signed up to be in. And they need to own the story. And when they can see themselves in your story, then you've really pulled them in.
Yeah, so it can't be complicated. So it has to be something they can tell their wife, their husband, to say, I want to go do this movie to shoot 6 months in Austin, Texas. So are you going to let me go? Well, what's the movie about? Right, you better have already practiced that and nailed it, right? Yeah. So therefore, those words have to come out. That's so good. Aaron, when you first have to start pitching Peanut Butter Falcon and your new ones as well, the ones that you've got out at the moment or the ones that you've just finished shooting, Evil Takes Root or Beast Mode, did you the same thing there? Had you pitched and were you ready? And
well, you know what's funny? This is kind of in line. I was just going to say something about the Peanut Butter Falcon and why it was unique. There's a story behind the story. So it's not, a lot of people in this business, and I just know from experience, we'll go do a commercial to pay the bills and then we'll come back to the passion project. It's like, just do the passion, do what you're excited about, and trust that the universe is going to align you with a person who also wants to tell that story for the same reasons. Because the story behind Peanut Butter Falcon is, if I go up to an investor today and I say, listen, there's this kid with Down syndrome who's been wanting to be an actor since he was 3 years old. He worked on his craft, this, that, and the other. And then he told his friends, Mike and Tyler, one day at dinner, hey, I want to be a famous actor. And they said, well, we think you're terrific and we think you should be a famous actor. But unfortunately, Hollywood's not really looking for people with Down syndrome. It's hard enough for anybody to become a famous actor, let alone someone with Down syndrome. So we don't want to get your hopes up. We're going to be honest with you, but we do believe you should keep trying and be that famous actor. And Zach, very matter of fact, he said, that's fine. You just write me a movie and I'll be the star of it.
Fair play to it.
And they bought all the screenwriting books they could find and they figured out how to write a movie for Zach. And then 5 years later, you guys watched that movie. And now Zach is a movie star. Zach, I just talked to the other day, he's got about 14 jobs lined up. As soon as they let him on a plane, he has his own television show that was written for him by one of the biggest TV writers in the business. He already got money sitting in the bank from, like, they prepaid him. Zach is ready to work now because he manifested the fact that I want to be a famous actor and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And it wasn't about, oh, I got to sell this idea to pay my rent. No, his heart wanted to do this for the world and he did it.
It's such a legendary story. It's so cool. And during that time, were you pitching, like, say, once it came to you, was it you now going to the investors? And that pitch, how much have you changed in speaking to John here from originally to now? You know, has your pitching style changed?
Well, me personally, I mean, now it's now clear, concise, and compelling. Oh, it makes life so much easier. It's like a breath of fresh air, man. When you wrap your head around this concept, it really does just make your life easier. And it's like the butterfly effect. The life in front of you becomes easier too. And there's a path of least resistance because you're not like, oh, tight, I got to sell this movie. You just relax into it and trust that, you know, we've all heard this. Every no is one step closer to a yes. But you can eliminate a lot of those no's by taking the pressure off of yourself and just getting clear, concise, and compelling, and trust that the person in front of you is either your next partner or it's not. But you might learn something from that person and move on and go, you know, appreciate that time, and maybe you work out a kink and move on to the next investor. But when you go out there with your heart like that, the investors will keep showing up.
Let's go. What about pitch decks and things like that, John, and Aaron as well? I suppose, what should you bring everything to the table? Obviously, it's a wordy pitch as well. But from your opinion, John, first, what do you think it is good to bring to the table with all that sort of filmmaking baggage that we have?
Well, the biggest mistake people make on a pitch deck is they put too many words on the slide, and it's the kiss of death to read to people. We all know how to read. Nobody needs to read to us. Like, you know, Aaron reads bedtime stories to his son, but other than that, nobody wants to be read to. And so if you start going like, well, so just have some visuals on the slide and don't be so dependent on the pitch deck that, you know, in Hollywood, they say at the Oscars and stuff, they're like, oh, that dress wore her. She didn't wear the dress.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So mean.
Don't have your pitch deck wear you.
Yeah. The pitch deck is your accessory, not your crutch.
Yeah.
You know, Aaron and I have worked together, as you heard. And, you know, if anybody wants to continue to work with me, I've got this methodology called better selling through storytelling. And I've worked with a lot of entertainment people and helped them not get just their movies made, but get casting or get whatever it is that they need to do. And it actually helps their personal life. And so Aaron can give you the link to share with people if anybody wants to find out more about working with me on the course where it's online. And then I work with people in a private Facebook group, and you get to practice and work with me on your actual elevator pitch or any other kind of pitch you have.
Which sounds amazing. I think everyone will be jumping at that. I'll put a link to that in the show notes when Aaron sends it as well. It's just, you seem like such a charismatic, brilliant guy as well. So I can see why Aaron was like, yeah, you can help me. Let's, you know, I imagine you're doing this a lot. How did you start, John? What was your journey into knowing you could help people and practice these pitches like this and get good? How did you even know that this was a thing?
Well, I started off selling multi-million-dollar mainframe computers against IBM back in the day. And I realized that people were buying not based on logic, but IBM used to sell something with FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. If you buy anything that's not IBM and it breaks, we're going to point the finger at that other vendor and you'll get fired for buying whatever John's selling if it's not IBM. So I was like, whoa, there's a lot of psychology involved here. And I majored in advertising and I loved what motivates people. And then, as I said, I worked for an ad agency creating commercials for movies, and that's what really honed my storytelling skills. And then the last 15 years, I was selling advertising for big brands at Condé Nast, like Wired and GQ and Vanity Fair and all of that stuff. And now I get hired to speak as a speaker to sales teams on whoever tells the best story is the one that gets the sale these days. And then NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, asked me to speak and hired me to help storytellers pitch their stories. Because telling a story in a movie or a TV show is very different than telling a story to get it funded or bought.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. This has been brilliant. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time to give us this wonderful knowledge. It's kind of stuff that was always in the back of our minds, but actually to hear it and go, yes, come on, this is how you do it. It's really nice. Really nice.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolute pleasure. So where can we follow you guys then? Have you got your Twitters, John, that people can find you on that?
Yes, my Twitter is @John_Livesay, LIV as in Victor, ESAY. I'm the Pitch with a P Whisperer on Instagram. And then Aaron has a link he's going to share with you real quick.
Yeah, I'm Aaron Scotti everywhere on social media. And then the link, and I'll send this to you as well, is gofrominvisible-to-irresistible.com/Aaron, AARON. And I'll shoot that over to you so you have it.
Awesome.
Amazing. Guys, this has been amazing.
Absolutely fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Just remember, you're storytellers. It doesn't stop with the paper. You're still telling stories to sell the script. It's easy.
It's so true. I'm going to go pitch now A Star is Born, The Fourth Virgin.
There you go.
Starring Giles.
Starring all of us. Thanks, guys. Thanks so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
Aaron. So thanks everyone so much for joining us on this week's episode. Aaron and John, they're absolute legends. Remember, you can go out there and make your indie film. You can make it happen. Remember, pitch is everything. It's
All
so
starts with a pitch.
important. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to send that elevator pitch back down. You like that? Okay.
Send it down like Inception, where you attach the explosives to it and you rocket that pitch in.
Why not? Let's do that.
Why not?
Thank you everyone so much for listening. Take care. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.